Guy walks into a store and says, "I like 5 pounds of kielbasa." Person says, "What are you, Polish?" He says, Guy says, "I resent that. If I walked in here and I wanted 5 pounds of mozzarella cheese, would you say I was Italian?" Guy goes, "No." "And if I walked in here and I said I wanted 5 pounds of gefilte fish, would you say, are you Jewish?" Guy goes, "No." Because I walk in here and I want 5 pounds of kielbasa, you accuse me of being Polish. I want to know why. Guy goes, "This is a hardware store." Today we talk about comedy, comedians, and the business of comedy with Sarah Nye, General Manager of the Cleveland Improv. Thank you for joining us. Sarah, all right, you saw my shtick. I am embarrassed. I want your expert opinion. Timing, material, does this guy have any potential?
You have very nice stage presence. It's very hard to play with anyone who's the headliner of the show. We usually let them do whatever they'd like to do. So with someone of your standing, we would never say anything to you as to pull back on any sort of type of topic there. So you did a wonderful job.
So I
if you were the headlining act,
so
which you are on the show.
So I didn't stink.
No, not at all.
In other words, if I weren't the headlining act, your critique would be a little different.
More than likely.
Okay, I don't want to hear about what it would be if I weren't the headlining. Let's talk about comedians. How many people are out there trying to earn a living as comics?
There are hundreds of thousands of, I would say more than 1 million comics out there trying to find work.
Within 1 million?
Across the nation, very much so.
Wow.
Do you know how many O's are in 1 million?
one out of every 250 people in this country wants to be a comedian.
Wants to be a comedian.
How many? All right, let's talk about your role in making them become comedians. How many comedy clubs are there? Not just your type, but in general, how many comedy clubs are we talking about?
There's over 350 clubs in the nation that are now at the, say, an ABC standing in the club rankings.
What does that mean?
You bring through different types of talent. Oh, the nervous part.
Okay, now how many improvs are there?
A total of 14.
Okay, now talk about what you do with the Cleveland Improv. What is your role?
My role is basically everything from, with the comedians, it would be to okaying the comedians that are coming through, to making sure they're in the right position for the showing, as for making sure they're coming through for a good period of the year. You wouldn't want to bring in a heavy hitter during a period of time where most of the people are on vacation here in Cleveland.
So part of your job then is to select the talent. Is there a committee?
Correct.
Does somebody? How does that work? Somebody comes in and says, "I got 10 minutes. Let me give you 10 minutes," and you sit there, you know, in the dark, and you critique them and say, "Okay, you got talent. Okay, you don't." How does it work?
Okay, with the Cleveland Club, the only types of comedians that we go ahead and we hire would be the MC position. All the other comedians would be hired through our LA management booking agent. Okay, with the MCs, we do everything from auditioning them to training them to their timing, the types of material that we would prefer that they would use, to working on their stage presence and things like that.
So I'm a comedian and I'm living in Bedford Heights, Ohio, and I got 10 minutes worth of stuff I think is funny. How do I end up at a comedy improv?
What we would do is we would tell you to come down on a Monday between 12 and 1 and audition for
in
5
Cleveland,
minutes.
In Cleveland.
Correct.
You have open mic on Monday?
Correct.
And that's true of all your cities?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now before you came to Cleveland, you did one somewhere else.
I worked for the Funny Bones that were down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I had a total of 3 stores that I managed down in that area.
Do they compete against the improv?
You would never want to say you compete against anyone. You would more, same in Cleveland. We basically enhance that type of field. Or what we're trying to do is work on building up the comedy in the area. And bringing in, may you say it's a competitive thing, what we're doing is each person's trying to bring in the better talent. No matter where the club is in the city of Cleveland or any other place that you go to, everyone tries to bring the city what they want to have. So as for the people of Cleveland, you're getting the best of the best.
So you don't compete against hilarities, let's say?
I would never want to say that, no, that we compete now.
Do you guys have a different kind of clientele that you compete for? Or that
we market to?
Market to?
We would never go in and check to see what they're marketing towards. We would basically do it all from within our store. But yes, I do think we have 2 separate markets, so we are not really competing against each other. As for the city will always have a choice of what type of comedy they would like to see.
Talk about that a little bit. Are you noticing that people in, say, Miami laugh at stuff differently from people in Cleveland, from people in D.C., from people in L.A.?
It depends upon what you're marketing. In Cleveland, we seem to market towards a more sophisticated type of audience. In Miami, it's
So in other words, Polish jokes wouldn't go over in the
we
market.
try to keep away from. It's recommended that anything that would basically offend anyone that's in the audience, you try to stay away from. But there is a way that you can get your joke without having to go through someone's ethnic background to anything that would be, in a sense, hurting them, offending them.
Then how did a guy like Andrew Dice Clay get through? Andrew Dice Clay, of course, is the guy that does the anti-women jokes,
Right.
anti-black jokes. I think he does anti-Jewish jokes, although I think he is Jewish. Not sure. But anyway, how did somebody like that get famous given the
He broke
constraints?
every rule that was out there. With the comedy sense, he broke every rule that was in the book, and that's why you have so many comedians that fight against something like that. What can you say for someone? He's very successful. I mean, and what he did, you really can't argue.
Do you think
argue with
it's
something
funny?
No.
Has he ever appeared at an improv?
No.
Because of the rules that you have?
Correct.
Okay. So he made it through another series of comedy clubs. In other words, somebody can make it, somebody can become successful even if you guys don't find them funny. You guys don't find their humor acceptable. Somebody
Correct.
can still cut through.
Oh, yes.
Do you know anything
And
about his background, how he got through, what he did?
Not with Andrew Dice Clay, no. I know that when we go ahead and we start marketing an area, especially when Miami first opened up, that we try to stay away from anything that would connect us to something like that. Because people were very offended by Andrew Dice Clay when he first came out. But he's very successful. I mean, you could, which way do you want to look at it? The way that we're looking at the books, or the success of his, as he calls it, his sort of comedy?
Right.
He thinks it's funny. He was able to market it. He was able to do all of it. I would never want to, go against him and say that he's wrong and doing everything. I just know, as for the rulings with our club, it's not something that we accept.
Now you say he broke every rule in the book. What are the rules? What is it that you guys look for?
It's a very open-ended type of thing that we work with. The rules are almost rules that you create on your own. Okay, rules that things that offend people are very much taken offense to, and that is something that we try to steer the people away from. Anything that the goal behind all the comedy clubs with the improvisation was to initially give a place for a comic to go in and practice, so that he could become maybe a star, a movie star, go on to Broadway, become a musician, whatever he was looking for. That's why the initial stage was brought to an area, or the New York one. But now basically they're trying to keep it to where it is a sophisticated type of person that you'll come in and see. It's where you could walk in and it could be the next, Dennis Miller. He was someone that went through there. Your Robert Kleins, your Lily Tomlins, things like that. The people like that came through and they made it are the type of people that, as you can see, they're all from different types of backgrounds, and they're all have different types of comedy.
Can you look at somebody,
And
Sarah,
say
and say they're going to make it?
No.
Can you look at somebody and say they got potential, that this person has talent, that this person has a shot? I mean, I would think that after you see so many people, I mean, you sit there and you see so many people, that something would probably happen to you that would almost dull the sensitivity. I mean, you sit there and you go, this person has to make me laugh. Can you?
I try to look at it from a completely different perspective. Okay, I look at it from, I need this person. So if I can motivate them to do the sort of thing that we need on our stage, I believe if someone's going to be funny, basically our open micers, if they think that they're funny, we'll take them through the steps. They'll have to follow some guidelines. We'll take them through the steps, and if they're funny and they know they're funny, they'll continue to come back. It'll be themselves who will go ahead and do something like that. Maybe it was our stage that started them off, but as for being funny and things like that, I would never take the credit for doing it. If they're funny, they'll go ahead and do it. I don't think I would ever be the person to push them to be something. But if they continue to show up, yes, I will motivate them while they're within my jurisdiction, I would say.
I guess what I was asking is, are you sort of, Sarah, clinical about it? I mean, is the test that this person made me laugh what you're looking for, or can you sit there sort of passively and go, yeah, that was funny, that'll work, that was funny?
That's exactly how we do it. If I ever did it for my own personal judgment, I'm sure we would have been closed down a long time ago.
Female comedians. A whole bunch
Very
of them
few.
now. You're seeing them on cable a lot more than
ever before.
Yeah, I remember Lucille Ball was around and Phyllis Diller, and outside of that, there weren't that many female comedians. And I wonder, is there a crop now coming up?
I would say yes. I would say the initial problem at the beginning was because most of the comedy was a road gig. They would go from club to club, traveling the road,
Yeah.
as the many comics call it.
Right.
That is not a thing that many women would like to do on their own, which is why I would say there's so few of them. But now that you're starting to see them on the television networks and things like that, it's because they don't have to venture out as far, which I don't think there was as few, as you could say that there weren't a lot of them out before. I'm sure they were always there. They just never traveled the road. They stayed within their one city limits and things like that.
Are there different rules for female comedians and
No.
for men comedians? The
No,
same
not at all.
material, same, they can do the same
They
stuff?
just take a little bit more catering too.
But I'm seeing a lot. I thought I was seeing a lot. There's
There
a
are a
woman,
lot
the
more
woman
now.
with the
HBO
xylophone.
Women of the Night, that's Judy Tenuta.
Did she come through your system?
She was here last year. She'll be back through again.
There's another one too, who's Boozer. Is that her last name?
Elaine Boozler,
Yeah.
she'll be here April Fool's Day.
She came through your system.
She's coming through this year, April Fool's Day.
So we're going to take a break, and we'll
Okay.
be right back talking to Sarah Nye, who's general manager of the Cleveland Improv, and we'll be right back.
Hey friends, Professor Sindelar here. Join me for Sports 101 every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on Channel 46. If you haven't watched recently, here's what you've missed. How about this one, neighbors? 1952. It's called Coca-Cola Tips. This is rare and hard to find. This set is worth in the neighborhood of about $65,000. Classes in session Saturdays at 10.
One trick when you're using honey is any recipe that you do with honey, if you're also going to use oil as one of the ingredients, try to use the oil first, because what will happen is the oil will coat your utensil. In this case, it's coating my tablespoon, but if you were using a cup measure, it would coat that too. And then when we go to put in a tablespoon of honey, it'll slide right off that spoon.
Chess. This is the John Adams High School Chess Club. We're the best chess club in the city of Cleveland, or at least for all the Cleveland high schools. We're just back from playing in the state team championships, where we took first place in the reserve division and a third place in the open division, and one of our players won a trophy with a 6-0 record, perfect score. Our high school has won the city championship for something like 20 years in a row, except for one co-championship. And we have placed, in every year we've been able to afford to go to the nationals in the top 10 or 20 teams in the country. I think that John Adams has got a national and a local and a state reputation in chess because we have a tradition of chess going back over 35 years. I was on the chess team when I was a student here. And we have at least David Allen, a national master, who was a student here at John Adams, and our kids believe they can, so they do.
Improving your chances of surviving a fire in your home can be easy. Installing a smoke detector and keeping it properly maintained is the smart way. Smoke detectors are inexpensive. Many models are available for under $10. The smoke detector alerts you when a fire is still in its early stage and time for you and your family to escape. Tune to the North Coast Cable Community Bulletin Board for additional safety tips.
Now, Cleveland's top-rated news can be seen on CNN's Headline News. News Center 8 and North Coast Cable have come together to provide an exclusive service to North Coast customers. Twice every hour, day and night, Rick Young and Denise Dufala bring you the latest news from the North Coast on CNN Headline News Channel 12. Headline News and News Center 8 on North Coast Cable. Just one more way we're increasing the value of cable to your family. Exclusively on North Coast Cable.
I'm with Sarah Nye, who's general manager of the Cleveland Improv. Sarah, what about political humor? Is that hot stuff, or is that down? What do you see on political humor? Mark
Little-
Russell type humor.
Those types of things seem to be going through quite well. It depends upon what is going on at that time, and no, they usually don't come out during election times and things like that. That's a time that they usually try to keep it kind of low, but as for on an average basis, that type of humor is used every day throughout the country.
I would have thought during election it would be even hotter.
They
No?
try to stay away from it. They seem to go a little lighter on it and things like that. Yes, that would be a perfect thing to set up for the Comical View, but sometimes people look at that as an easy way out.
Are you seeing wartime humor with the success of Desert Storm? Are you seeing General Schwarzkopf jokes or Colin Powell jokes or anything like that?
I would say a few of them did come out, and now that it's something that it's something a lot of people recognize. I don't think they're trying to make it a joking matter at all, though. Not with the war was something that everybody tried to stay away from the moment that one started out. So.
All right, well, Sarah, let's say you're a mother, you got a kid who's 19 years old and he wants to be a comedian, or she wants to be a comedian, and your advice is what?
I would let them go ahead and try it. There's a lot of roads that they could travel from that. A lot of people became movie stars, comics, interviewers, have their own talk show and things like
failed
that.
comedians become talk show hosts.
We never said failed. But no, if they would like to try it, they're more than welcome to come down and try it. I mean, every club would love to have someone new and upcoming, or someone in our business. We need them to continue, coming out of the woodwork, as they would say. So.
The impact of cable TV on comedy. Talk about that a little bit.
At the beginning, I would say that we were a bit worried that it would hurt our business.
That it would take away the audience.
To come in and see a show live is completely different from sitting in your living room and laying down on the couch and watching it. You don't receive the full effect of the crowd laughing around you. You never have the full club experience. So for someone to come through and say that that's something that they wouldn't want to do, I truly believe that it gives us the wrong angle, but it does help us out as to if you see someone on one of the cable networks and they enjoy the show and then they're at our club, yes, it would help us out.
Yeah, I guess the
so
experience
there's two angles from.
The experience is the difference between a movie and a play, for
Correct.
example. Well, you guys, do you have a tie-in with cable? Do you have a show? Isn't there something that you
Evening
guys are
at the
doing?
Improv
And talk about
is
that.
one of the shows that are filled out at the Santa Monica Club. What they do is they'll go ahead and audition a lot of comics throughout that one location, and we also use the talent that we take through on our stages, and they go ahead and collect up maybe 7 or 8 comics to put together a full show.
And it comes on once a week?
Oh, it comes on, I think here in the Cleveland area, maybe twice an evening. You'll receive a full hour of Evening at the Improv.
Is there any money in being a comedian? When you're starting out, can you make a living?
For the initial year, your emceeing years, those are the times that you're starting to learn how to do your timing, what kind of jokes, different types of areas want different types of ways to present their jokes and things like that. So the first year, the income is low, but it's very obvious that a lot of comics can live off of it. They really don't need to pay for rent or anywhere to live because they're basically living in their cars and things like that. But as time moves on, yes, the money is a very nice sum.
So I mean, that really is the way it works. You literally go from club to club. You live out of your car. I mean, it's really it's that tough. It's that sort of
It's not
guerrilla kind
well.
of
We give
lifestyle.
them places to stay. So basically, the time from driving from one location to the other is the time that they spend in their car. It depends upon how far they book themselves and things like that. Most of them are their own agents. Yes, there are a lot of places out there that they can go ahead and say that, they're going ahead and booking a lot of people, but that's where they start losing their own money that they could be putting in their own pocket. But a lot of them live in the LA, the coastal cities, and that's where they can go ahead and maybe make it into a Broadway play or the screens and the things like that.
How hard is it? How hard is it to get together a 5 or 10 or 15-minute act and be funny in front of people?
It may not be that hard to go ahead and write down a joke, but to go ahead and do the presentation and to go through the theatrics of it all to make the joke complete, I would say it's very difficult. It's something that we send people back. Please record yourself. Please write it down. Do you know we're not understanding your joke? Please look in the mirror. There's so many more things to make a joke complete that a lot of people just have to take the time to put into it. I mean, they could make it a complete career and they would love what they're doing if that's what their dream was.
Compare it to something if you can. Is it harder than being a singer? Is it harder than being an actor? Is it harder than being a dancer? Can you?
I
mean,
would
you-
say
you've
I
heard-
would
you've
say
heard
you
that
need to
story.
put in
You've
the
heard that
same
story,
same
yeah.
amount of time to practice. You need to go ahead and there aren't people out there that you can say what are the 5 steps to writing a joke, because I really don't think there's a true set way as to how there is to write a joke. Or is there a way to go ahead and say, how do you go ahead and present this? It has to be the person going ahead and putting themselves into it, and they have to continue writing.
Right.
The writing is the whole key to it all, because as they continue staying on the stage, they mature as anything else does. May someone become a better dancer the more they practice. The same thing works with comedy. So in the long run, I would say that it's probably harder to be a comic, unless everyone has their own peaks as to what they're happy with, and they feel they're successful at one point. But I would say for most of them, it's going to be a long road.
Do you have to write your own material? If you're going to make it, does it have to be your own stuff?
To go ahead and to borrow someone else's jokes is
You mean like
completely
you mean like
unacceptable.
you mean like I did? Like I did?
Very much so. I mean, that's something that's completely unacceptable in the world of comedy. May it
I
be
thought
from the
that
person.
happened all the time. Milton Berle used to complain about, or people used to complain about
Everybody
about
does.
Milton
I mean-
Berle for stealing. Don't comics steal from other people?
It's so hard because the topics, there's so many comics out there, and they're all using everyone is basically thinking the same. Everyone's
Right.
on the same cycle.
This is the issue right here. This is
Right.
the issue right here. So you hear his joke, you move it around a little bit, and suddenly it becomes your joke. I mean, isn't that what
That's
people
what
do?
it could be, something from the television. It
Right.
could be, there's so many things that they use as their topics that it becomes so hard to say that something is their joke. But you try to stay away from, when you hear it word for word, you know that it's someone else's. And that's what happens many a times as you're watching someone going, oh, did you watch too many Bill Cosby tapes? Or have you been doing this? Have you been, and a lot of them will sit there and laugh going, well, I changed one word. Well, I think the person involved with that would be that he's basically stealing it and doing it over, which in the comedy world, we try to push them to create their own.
Well, if somebody comes out and he or she just steals somebody else's routine, changes it a little bit, but basically you know where it came from. What's going to happen? Is this person going to be sued? What are the consequences of doing that?
Usually with something like that, they go ahead and confront that before they would ever make it to our point. Or if we're talking about an MC or something that's starting out that is in with our range to go ahead and still mold, we would go ahead and say something to them. We would say, if you would like to continue using our stage for practice or to come along and be a part of our show, you won't be able to use that joke any longer.
Mm-hmm. I've heard.
They understand, though.
Okay. I've heard older comedians like Bob Hope, like Henny Youngman, complain about today's comics. And they say they haven't put in their dues, they haven't worked the Catskills, they haven't worked the chicken circuit.
Right.
And they're all young and pimply face, and they really aren't that funny. What do you think when you hear something like that?
I would say they're probably trying to write a new joke right then, because as you see, so many of these comics are doing well, and they are funny, and it just depends upon what you enjoy. So it's something that pretty much the comics are trying to cater to what the audience wants at that point. So Bob Hope, hopefully he's using them to his lineup of list of jokes.
I've noticed a lot of comics become actors. Alan King does a lot of acting. Red Buttons was in They Shoot Horses, Don't They? A lot of comics have gotten very serious. Jack Lemmon, I know he's not a stand-up comic, but he's considered to be sort of a light comic, a light comedian. Is there something about getting up and standing in front of people that makes you an actor or an actress, that makes you able to read script and come across believably?
Well, I would say with most of the comics, they have to go ahead and memorize their jokes, or they go ahead and ad-lib as they're going. But you can usually see, I would say that when these comics are on their stage, they very much have the stage presence. They're very much going through a character. So as for acting and things like that, yes, they would be perfect for most of the things that come through if that's what the producer, whoever the casting director is looking for. I would say that's probably why they started off on that stage anyways, was waiting for that opportunity to come walking through. So.
My guest has been Sarah Nye, General Manager of the Cleveland Improv. Sarah, I want to thank you for joining us, and I want to thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week. Good night. That's it.
to just need to take a spatula and to fold the egg whites into the batter. Now, if you're not used to folding, the easiest thing to do is to run your spatula right through the center of the mixture, bring it around. Run it right through the center of the mixture, turn your bowl at the same time as you move with the spatula, and that will help you get that egg white incorporated in the smallest amount of strokes.
Now, Cleveland's top-rated news can be seen on CNN's Headline News. News Center 8 and North Coast Cable have come together to provide an exclusive service to North Coast customers. Twice every hour, day and night, Rick Young and Denise Dufala bring you the latest news from the North Coast on CNN Headline News Channel 12. Headline News and News Center 8 on North Coast Cable. Just one more way we're increasing the value of cable to your family. Exclusively on North Coast Cable.
The appointment of Larry Lumpkin to the Cleveland Board of Education should be welcomed by all in Greater Cleveland because he brings with him one special and presently missing qualification. He is a parent of a student presently enrolled in the Cleveland public school system. He will bring a personal interest that is unique to being a parent. It is hoped that his appointment will spur even greater parental involvement in our schools, both as possible candidates in the school board elections this fall and as partners working with their children to obtain the best education possible for every student. Parental involvement at every level is essential for our schools to become fully effective.
I'm Larry Robinson from the Antwerp Diamond Center. You might be wondering what you can do to help our military people in the Persian Gulf and those who returned. You can support the American Red Cross. The Red Cross has been providing vital services for our troops, their families, refugees, and other victims throughout the crisis. The Red Cross needs your help. Please give to the American Red Cross Gulf Crisis Fund. Call 431-3010 for information. 431-3010. I'm Larry Robinson.
Most fatal fires occur at night when you and your family are asleep. Seconds can spell the difference between life and death. Having a smoke detector on every level in your home doubles your chances of surviving a fire. Smoke detectors are inexpensive. Many models are available for under $10, and smoke detectors are easy to install. For additional safety tips, tune to the North Coast Community Bulletin Board.